You are listening to the IoT For All Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IoT For All podcast on the IoT For All Media Network. I'm your host, Ryan Chacon, one of the co-creators of IoT For All. Now, before we jump into this episode, please don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or join our newsletter at iotforall.com/newsletter to catch all the newest episodes as soon as they come out. Before we get started, if any of you out there are looking to enter the fast-growing and profitable IoT market but don't know where to start, check out our sponsor, Leverage's IoT Solutions Development Platform, which provides everything you need to create turnkey IoT products that you can white label and resell under your own brand. To learn more, go to iotchangeseverything.com. That's iotchangeseverything.com. So, without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the IoT For All podcast. Welcome, Vishal, to the IoT For All show. How are things going on your end?
Yeah, they're doing great. Thanks, Ryan. How about you?
Pretty good. Not too bad. We're getting warm weather down here in the DC area, so it's very encouraging to be able to get outside after work and do some activities out there, as opposed to being locked in here and it getting dark at 4:30.
Nice.
Why don't you start off by just giving a quick introduction to our audience? Talk about your background a little bit, experience, kind of what brought you to being one of the founders of ZenduIT, and we'll get into that a little bit more afterwards.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, kind of got started in this IoT space and it's in ZenduIT almost about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But a little bit prior to that, I was working with Siemens Medical on medical devices, and that was my first exposure to IoT and camera AI, where we're trying to sort of improve the way we read medical specimens. And I was always a process guy. I was looking for ways people could work more efficiently, how technology and people kind of intersected in that, and sort of got involved. I was pretty entrepreneurial, so at the point of where formulating a few ideas, I kind of started in sort of the telematics space when it was just basically GPS tracking, where we were talking about vehicles and people wanted to know where things were. But now as things sort of evolved, started this business in ZenduIT, which is more on the IoT solutions and integration space.
Sure.
So I've been kind of in this for about 10 years, and been always kind of always innovating, because there's always a fun new technology out there, and looking for ways in which we can kind of improve the way people leverage the IoT and technology, and specifically on camera
for
tech.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
I'd love you to if you could expand on the kind of the founding of ZenduIT and just a little bit more about the backstory there. It's always interesting for me and our audience to just get kind of that inside look into the opportunity you saw in the market, what you saw as the potential fit and the solution that you guys could provide, and kind of how ZenduIT came to be.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, when and it's kind of relates to kind of the evolution and maturity of kind of our industry too, right? So when we started about 10 years ago, even before starting, I was quite interested in kind of the fleet market, like vehicles. And sure. The emerging sort of tech was on GPS tracking, and that's kind of where we started. Like we looked at vehicles and dots on a map, and hey, generally the question was, where's my guys? How long are they there? And sort of the software part of it and interested me, like how we got this hardware on these vehicles, how it communicated to the cellular networks, and how people kind of got the result on a map, right? And it was very cool to me. But as through the last 10 years, as technologies sort of evolved, there was kind of a growing need for customers to integrate this tech and this data to other software systems, like how we need an application that helps, anytime a customer arrives at a certain location, I want to get a notification, or to my customers, or, if they're delayed, I want to get some sort of update on my system, ERP system, or whatever that might be.
Right.
That's where ZenduIT started, which to be on the software solutions company. So I felt like there was a bit of a gap between sort of those companies providing these little GPS trackers out of the box and what customers were looking for in terms of having some sort of automation on top of that, right? And that's where I looked to kind of evolve, build some software applications for our customers. And we looked at every industry sort of has a different sort of use case, and sort of started evolving on that tech, and it became asset trackers, it became camera, and camera vision is kind of where we kind of put a lot of focus and attention today.
Okay.
And that's where we're sort of innovating, because there's just so much you can do with sort of artificial intelligence. And so, but yeah, that's kind of how the business has evolved. We're in Mississauga, Toronto, but we've also opened up an office in Dubai, working with the airport over there. And again, same sort of deal, looking at how IoT can better improve business operations at the airport. And so it's been kind of exciting to see that evolution go from basic dots on a map to, how do we improve aircraft turnaround in terms of timing and speed, right? So it's kind of where we evolve, and hope to continue to evolve along that. Right.
So I have two quick questions kind of as a follow-up to that. One, on the computer vision side, can you explain to our audience kind of what computer vision is? And then I'll follow up with a question after that.
So I mean, so it's interesting in the sense of like we interpret, when I first got into the space, it's sort of that manual look of video. And, if you think about it, in terms of a human, like a security person, they're watching video and they're sort of looking for events they can see on a video from a security perspective. And then they're kind of tracking and trying to action out certain events. Like if somebody's doing some theft, they're monitoring it and they do it.
Right.
But the computer vision is just about, and computer vision and AI is just about automating and detecting different types of events that are of interest, right?
Okay.
When I got into the space, working with Seaman Medical, it was around medical specimens where we had a camera pointed at test tubes that are going through an assembly sort of solution, and it was to sort of it was supposed to scan the barcode, but also the size of the test tube. There's there's like hundreds of different sizes of test tubes, and there would be fed into different systems based on their sizing and other little attributes of these test tubes. And so that was my first exposure onto computer vision. And, at the time it was just as simple as sort of detecting the size and reading the barcode and sort of on the computer side, making a decision about what to do with that. Right. Right. So that's kind of a layman's term.
That's great.
Vision. Yeah.
That's great. So how does this play into kind of what you're doing over there, I guess in Dubai on the airport side? I saw there's a little bit of information around like counting passengers, detecting faces and security and that kind of thing. Like how's computer vision playing a role in the use cases you all are launching?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of research in terms of how we can use computer vision and AI to help in these business operations. So right now we're kind of on some research activities from right now on the airport passenger side. We have passengers go get transported from their gates by a bus often to their to the respective aircraft. And here's where especially looking at these premium airlines, first class passengers, there's obviously a big concern on making sure that passengers' comfort is at the highest level, like throughout the process, right? And with with cameras, with computer vision, detecting the number of people on a bus to make sure that it's not over capacity. By the camera could see how many people are there, and also even looking at things like comfort level. Are they standing? Are they sitting? So just looking and collecting that type of data, and looking at that over the course of a day or months, you can see where there might be overcapacity, and then you start to make a decision of, hey, do we need to have more buses, or do we need to do certain things around passenger comfort? So those are the things that we're kind of doing some research activities there at the airport. There's obviously a lot of different use cases we can get into, but on that camera side, but more traditionally, from the software that we offer, we're focusing a lot more on specific driver-facing detection of fatigue, and detection of if they're on their phone. Are they navigating the road where they're in a proper way, like not kind of going into the lanes. So the things that I'm sure that we're all pretty familiar with these, cameras on vehicles today, but slightly different interests and use cases when we're talking about business owners managing their drivers on the road.
Right.
Of course, there's a concern around safety and liability and risk, especially when you're dealing with in high risk transport of goods like oil and hazards. So, at the airport's kind of that comfort level for passengers, but more traditionally, our business is where most of our business and sales is involved is more on the driver transport market because it's just a huge market for
makes sense
improving them. And again, it's also for driver comfort as well, right? Fatigue and so all of this is information we're collecting and looking at better ways to take these data and insights and giving more solutions to customers and how they can improve their business.
So how does it work when it comes to integrating in the AI component? We know AI is something that a lot of people have different opinions on how effective it can be, how reliable it is. It's, is it something that works 100% of the time? Is it 100% reliable? All those kind of questions. So how do you all approach this type of conversation with customers and kind of inform them the value that AI plays in the solutions that you guys build?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, for us right now, it's also important for us to set proper expectations on what AI is with customers. Some people think of AI as something, a black box that can really solve everything. But really, we're at a level of still maturing what AI is. And then, like you said, it's very difficult to achieve 100%, accuracy on any AI model you develop. And let me kind of explain like an example, right? So we, for example, are continually building our AI for something as simple as like, hey, detecting whether a driver's on their phone or not, right? To improve safety, and vehicles and making sure that drivers are attentive to the road, right? But in that AI, building that AI, drivers could have, a mic, a CB radio in their hand, or they might have their phone in their hand. But it's about improving that model of detection, right? So like the work that we do to sort of improve that is we take each of these events, and this is about building an AI model, is about taking each event and sort of tagging it. Is this an actual driver on the phone, or is it not driver on the phone? Mm-hmm. And as you kind of tag these events, right, it's sort of machine learning, right? You're saying, yes, it is on the phone. No, he's not on the phone. You're sort of improving the accuracy of your AI model, right? So now, in the ideal scenario, just going back to the security example, right? You don't want anyone kind of continuously monitoring some video or events and seeing a lot of false positive. And it's for us, it's just about that, right? Improving the accuracy of AI. So when we talk to our customers about AI, we talk to them about, where we are at with the level of ability for us to detect certain events. And I think if we don't do that if we don't have that kind of conversation, customers can get disappointed, in these types of scenarios, right? There's AI for facial detection, right?
Sure.
There's AI for detecting objects, and based on this, you can do many different things. Like facial detection, maybe you put it into a database and you're saying, hey, this person is X, this is John Smith, or is Ryan, or is Vishal, right? But now when you're introducing all these variables about facial masks and all this other thing, it becomes a lot more difficult to detect. And now you have to introduce new variables in your modeling of AI, right? Or how you're going to better detect certain events. So, it's super difficult. It's, with customers, when we talk about AI, it's about setting proper expectations on what the AI model can achieve. But obviously the goal and, what we're trying to set expectation with the customer is that this is where we're trying to be and go, right? So, hopefully that gives an idea of, what AI is and where we're kind of going. Of course. But also the challenge of trying to improve your AI model, right?
Yeah, so I guess that's a good point to kind of expand on here. So when it comes to building reliable AI models, can you talk about just at a high level, the process that goes into that, the time that usually takes, kind of why it matters, and how that results in getting good quality data on the AI side? And maybe that's more of data going in initially so that AI can kind of deal with it and make adjustments, but just kind of answering that in as simplest terms as possible.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing that's importance is the the quantity of data, the machine learning, right? The more information you give to an AI model, the better it can perform, right? So, in the simplest form, to achieve a good AI model, we need, on a camera side, we need good resolution on the images. So that means putting the camera and positioning it in such a way that we're getting the features of what we're trying to do in a clear way. So if it's like driver, if I'm trying to determine, we're working on a project where automatically determine when the driver comes in the vehicle, like one of the traditional factors of driver identification is them scanning in on the vehicle with their little key fob, right?
Right.
But that's like mental energy to scan your key fob on something or log into something to sort of say, hey, I'm on here, right? It's much better to just see who's there. And so what we're trying to work on is like saying, hey, let's look at who's in the vehicle by their face, and let's match them up. Like how your Nest Cam is, it match group that face and into somebody, so we know it's John Smith. Or if it's a student, or your kids are going on a bus, knowing which kids are coming on the bus, so you can have attendance, or when they're leaving, or how many kids are on the bus. Right. But the big challenge is positioning where the camera is and having enough data to accurately determine that this is John. It's not from the side of the face or it's the front of the face. So. This is the challenge of different things we should consider when we're building a strong AI model is defining what we're looking for and defining and a good test strategy of building the AI model, right? That hey, it's if we're looking for this face, we want to position it in front of the driver, right? But it's definitely a challenge depending on what you're trying to do. And this level of sophistication, we're trying to get with these cameras.
So how does then, where does the edge component play into this? Because obviously, another thing out there is people talk about edge AI. So edge kind of more, AI more at the edge. Can you talk about how you make a decision between kind of doing AI more at the edge versus not at the edge, and kind of what that looks like for, the layman out there who's kind of trying to understand where AI comes in, how it can be applied, and the benefits of kind of doing it at different points along the solution kind of process?
Sure. Yeah. So camera AI at the edge versus in the cloud, right? So basically when we talk about this, what we're talking about is when I record a video or an event, either that image, let's suppose it's something like, I'm driving through a stop sign, right?
Okay.
I can't really do that in the cloud, right? Because it's like unless I'm sending all that video to the cloud, right? And that costs a lot of money because it's cellular data, right? And it'll be like gigs of data for sending video to the cloud, right? So I don't want to send all that video to the cloud. One, it'll also take a lot of processing power from sending a lot of data in cloud, and cost is very costly on the server side if I'm sending for driving through a stop sign, right? Just to detect that one event, right? That's why you need camera on edge because the camera on edge is going to drive that recording or event only when it detects those objects right on the camera itself, right? So it's like it's programming the hardware in such a way that I'm looking for this specific type of event. And it might include more than just the camera. It's about I'm driving at a certain speed. I'm not stopped, right? I'm driving over a certain speed, and I can see that there's a stop sign on the camera. Sure. And sort of detecting that, I know that's kind of right there on the edge because, I'm not feeding all that video to the cloud. I'm detecting that there. And that's where the camera's sort of making a decision of, let me now send an alert, or let the driver know that they've made a mistake, in which hopefully they'll coach and improve. But that's kind of the high level kind of differentiator between edge and cloud. And the thing about the cloud is you can get data going to the cloud to then build an algorithm to then program the camera to detect on the edge, right? So there's the ability to kind of take all that data in the cloud and then program things on the edge. But the edge is what allows us to get more real-time analysis of data. Okay. And we see that every day. Like if you're driving newer vehicles, you'll see edge processing of cameras on lane detection, forward collision warning. And that stuff is really important. It's not perfected. I mean, I drive a Tesla, And, there's been certain instances where I'm on autopilot and I'm like, okay, is the car going to stop now? Okay, it's getting a little concerning here or there. I'm not trying to, badmouth Tesla in any way. I mean, it's a great vehicle and I love it. But, it's always those, and nobody wants to talk about those little things, right? That happen. Sure. But it's still, there's still little nuances between, I'm up in Canada, there's snow, there's this and that. There's so many variables. So, there's still a lot to do with the edge side of things as well to make it very reliable, in my opinion. So when people start talking about, that we're going to have all autonomous vehicles driving and
right.
Tomorrow, I sort of like hesitate being in the industry I'm in and driving the sort of best in class autonomous type vehicles.
Sure.
You think about that. So I think, there's the camera side, but I think there's also, like, if we're talking about autonomous vehicles, there's also things that need to be done on the infrastructure itself to support each other. And that's what's also like in this industry is sort of camera AI, but also looking at things to support the cameras as well. Like, lane markers, or other types of IoT, like, a badge or Bluetooth to sort of detect what's going on and having the camera be better at doing some AI processing.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing about autonomous vehicles is, especially now where not all vehicles obviously are autonomous. I drive a Jeep Cherokee, which has a lot of interesting technology in it, like lane departure warnings and things, where the cameras are looking at the road, telling me if I'm in the lane or not in the lane, moving me back in, that kind of stuff. Not to the extent of what a Tesla does by any means, but it's come a long way. But yeah, when it rains or when it snows, it can't see the lane, so it turns that feature off. But I'm curious as to how the experience will be as more cars can kind of communicate with one another, and the cars can be talking back and forth. So you kind of, let them kind of handle where they are in relation to each other, where they're in relation to, the road and things like that. And in theory, if all cars were able to communicate with each other and be autonomous, then maybe that's kind of where we get to make it successful. But I think we're still a little ways from getting there, especially when you have human error and anytime anybody drives a car at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting topic. I mean, that's what when we start talking about neural networks, I think that's like the topic of kind of like how everything communicates with everything.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like, it's so interesting because now you're not just using your own little camera's data to improve the way things work. It's like using everybody's data to improve the way things work. And I think it's really what will be needed to really make this thing more robust, right? I mean, I don't know if by itself if I'm just collecting vehicle data on my one sort of vehicle, that's not enough to sort of support the growth and improvement of
no.
If, let's say, like if I have, all our vehicles have data we're collecting and we know that there's a pothole or some issue in a particular area, and that can tell other vehicles that same type of issue. Now we have a very powerful neural network, and it could be that. It could be then also infrastructure that the city is also now considering because they want to, have Vision Zero, lower, the number of accidents out on the road. You'll see that kind of concept being promoted by a lot of cities. Vision Zero accidents or death, right? So, but it's like the request of now auto manufacturers to also look at how to make the cities more intelligent as well. But all these things are going to be playing their part. But I think, part of this kind of evolving will require some regulatory changes as well.
100%.
I think there's always like two steps forward and then one step back, because yesterday there was that data breach. I don't know if you saw that. There was 15,000 cameras, I think, hacked, including Tesla factory and hospitals, prisons. Basically, you know, these hackers hacked sort of a camera manufacturer through some super admin login, and they were able to kind of get into everyone's cameras in all these facilities, detect faces, and match those faces against who those people are. You know, detect So basically, it's a huge data breach, and like huge companies like Tesla and Cloudflare, big news. So it's always it's like we're trying to innovate, progress move forward, kind of me being in the tech space and the camera space, but then, we get data breaches and security side of things. And that's where I think the regulation, we're trying to move forward regulation that makes things more open and sharing knowledge, but then you get these sort of data breaches and it's sort of like you get taken 2 steps back, where now it's like, okay, government's not as happy to kind of have those open data sharing type agreements or those sorts of things. So it's a tricky situation, right? And I think the security is really what's going to sort of, which I think definitely needs to be considered, but it's something that I think is always going to will for good reasons kind of slow a few of these things down, right?
I totally agree.
Networks and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. As we kind of wrap up here, I wanted to ask you one question just from a high level viewpoint, as you guys are very actively involved on the AI side, on the computer vision and IoT and so forth. What other trends that we haven't talked about today have you been seeing on the computer vision side of things? And where do you kind of see the future of it going over the next 12 to 18 months or so?
On trend side, there's so many interesting areas to look on the trend side. I think the neural network is certainly an area that I see a lot of opportunity. What we're talking about is cameras talking to each other, collecting data. Right now, where I'm looking at it right now from a customer point of view. Right now, we have these cameras, and I think generally people are looking at it still from like a security camera point of view, where they get these events, they look at these videos and events, but I think it's really about where I see the trend on potentially on videos is this managed service. So this service of actually a third party managing all these video events and managing it at a third party level. Okay. So that's where I see some of that is more of a service layer on top of this, on top of the video. Because I think that one is people might not have the skill or knowledge to kind of, or even time. A lot of it's just time to manage all these events and what to do after the event. So now I see a lot of third-party services being developed around, especially because, it's kind of evolving the security and monitoring industry a little bit, but having third-party services to manage and monitor these events on behalf of companies. Right. And so I think I see a lot of that service being developed, and also improving the way we organize this information into neural networks and into machine learning to improve the AI model. So there's companies that are more focused now on kind of developing those services and helping improve. And another area I think I see a lot of development on trending wise is just managing regulations around, from a government side, it's just around cameras, autonomous vehicles, security. So I see a lot of trends kind of in that space too, which I think is going to change the way companies like us, innovate and develop this hardware solutions. Chinese companies, maybe there'll be some restrictions against them, who knows, on the camera side of things. So I think there's a lot of those types of services and regulations being developed, which I think are it's kind of where I think things are right now. The focus is being driven.
Yeah. So basically, the last question I have before we finish up here is kind of a funny question, because I feel like it's asked and joked about, but not a lot of real context is ever given when this is asked. But the question is AI going to take over the world? People get scared of it, they worry about it, but is that really something that they should be concerned about, or are we really not at that stage? Do we really not see it going there? Kind of what are your opinions there?
Yeah, it's a funny question. Well, we watch way too many movies, so it's always a fun question to ask. I love it. But no, I don't think it's going to take over the world. I think at the end of the day, at least not in our lifetimes, or I don't think any time soon for sure. I mean, AI, it's important everyone understands. Artificial intelligence, truly independent artificial intelligence is very, very hard. I mean, even where we are today, I feel is so still at the starting stages of AI. So I don't think that's happening anytime soon. And so I have to say it's a bit hard no for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Awesome. Well, Vishal, this has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to come on here. I would love for if you could quickly tell our audience where they can find out more information about ZenduIT, how they can kind of reach out, if they have any questions, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great. And our website, ZenduIT, just Google us. But we're an IoT solutions company. We get involved with a lot of different enterprises about different problems they're having, and talk a little bit about how IoT cameras can help sort of solve those problems and build a sort of solution, for business use cases for them. Yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate the time. Again, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for taking the time to be on here. And would love to have you back at some point in the future.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Love being here too. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks again for joining us this week on the IoT For All podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please leave us a rating or review and be sure to subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you're listening to us on. Also, if you have a guest you'd like to see on the show, please drop us a note at ryan@iotforall.com and we'll do everything we can to get them as a featured guest. Other than that, thanks again for listening and we'll see you next time.